Make our favorite apple pie. We realize our apple pie recipe may seem longer than others, but don't let that scare you off. We have simply added as many tips to the recipe to ensure you make the best apple pie possible. Use our recipe to achieve apple pie with perfectly cooked, not mushy apples, surrounded by a thickened and tasty sauce, all baked inside a flaky golden brown crust. The pie crust recipe we use for this apple is same as all other pies on Inspired Taste. The flaky pie crust recipe never fails us. You can use any crust for this pie, but for the best result, we highly recommend our recipe. So, this makes one pie, 9-inch pie. You will need pie dough for top and bottom 9-inch pie, chilled. Uh, See our flaky pie crust recipe. Um, 4 to 4.5 pounds baking apples, 7 to 8 apples, 1 half cup 100 grams light or dark brown sugar, half cup 100 grams granulated sugar, 1/4 teaspoon fine sea salt, 1 teaspoon ground cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon ground ginger, 1/4 teaspoon ground cardamom, 1/4 teaspoon ground allspice, 1/4 teaspoon freshly grated nutmeg, 2 tablespoons cornstarch or use 4 tablespoons flour or starch, 1 tablespoon butter, 1 egg. So, directions. Make apple filling. First step is peel and then cut the apples in half. Remove the cores and then slice apples half into thin slices about 1/4 inch thick. Place the apple slices into a very large bowl. Step second. Scatter both sugar, salt and spices over the apples and then use your hands to toss them, coating the apple slices as much as possible. Set aside for 1 hour at room temperature. Prepare pie crust. Roll out the first half of pie dough on a lightly floured work surface. To prevent the dough from sticking and to ensure uniform thickness, roll from the center of the dough outwards and keep lifting up and turning the dough a quarter turn as you roll. Check for the correct size by inverting the pie dish over the dough. The dough should be about 1 to 1 half inches to 2 inches larger than the dish. Being careful not to stretch. Place the dough into the pie dish and then trim overhanging dough to within 3/4 inch of the edge of the dish. Refrigerate while you make the pie filling. Roll out the second half of dough to a smaller size as before and transfer it to larger parchment lined baking sheet. Keep this in the refrigerator until needed. Prepare oven. Position an oven rack towards the center of the oven and then heat the oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, that is 200 degrees Celsius. Assemble pie. Toss cornstarch with the apples. Transfer most, if not all, of the apples into the prepared bottom crust using your hands to really pack them down into the pie. Fill the pie until apples are mounted at the same height as the edge of the pie crust. If you have too many apples, save them. Pour the juices that have accumulated at the bottom of the bowl over the apples. If it looks like there is more than 3/4 to 1 cup of liquid, you might want to leave some behind. Cut a tablespoon of butter into 8 or so small pieces and dot them over the pie. For a double crust pie, place the second pie dough round over the filling or cut into strips and lattice the top. If you are not adding lattice crust and instead are adding the top crust in one piece, use a sharp knife to cut a few slits in the top of the crust to allow steam to vent. Trim excess dough from the top crust or lattice strips and then fold them overhang underneath itself, forming a thick rim. Press it together or crimp it with your fingers or use a fork. Whisk the egg with a tablespoon of water and then use an egg wash by lightly brushing the top crust. This adds shine and helps the crust brown. Bake pie. Place the prepared pie onto a baking sheet lined with a parchment paper. This can be the same lined baking sheet used for chilling the top crust. Bake the pie Bake the pie for about 75 minutes, turning a few times for even browning. If you notice that the pie crust is browning too quickly, mold a large piece of foil over a bowl that has been placed down upside down to make a foil dome. Place a foil dome over the pie for remaining bake time. This will slow the browning. Apple pie is done when the juices are bubbling through the vents of the top crust or lattice. If you do not see bubbles, the pie needs more time. Another way to check for doneness is to use an internal thermometer. Pierce the pie in the middle, then test the temperature. The pie is done when it reaches 195 Fahrenheit. Piercing the pie is also a nice indication of how soft the apples are. If they feel too crunchy, the pie needs more time. Serving. Be sure to cool the pie without slicing into it for at least 1 hour, preferably longer. Keep in mind the pie filling does not fully thicken until it's completely cooled. So, for the absolute